Greetings, Exile. With Path of Exile 2's launch just around the corner, the hype is at an all-time high, and it's not just us who are excited. Even the director of Diablo 4 couldn't resist giving Path of Exile 2 one of the best accidental promotions it could ask for. Thanks to that, even more people are learning about this upcoming Diablo 1 and 2-like masterpiece. While we wait for PO2 to drop, I figured it's the perfect time to bring you another completely pointless, but hopefully entertaining and slightly informative video. Today, we'll be diving into a comparison of the similarities and differences between Path of Exile 1 and the known League content of Path of Exile 2. Let's dive in. Starting with Breach in Path of Exile 1, you encounter hand-like constructs randomly. Interacting with them spawns an expanding circle from which breach monsters emerge. The faster you kill these monsters, the longer the circle remains open and the further it expands. Monsters occasionally drop breach splinters and breach rings. The rings are corrupted rares whose properties are doubled while inside a breach. Meanwhile, collecting 100 splinters of the same type forms a breach stone, granting access to an endgame boss encounter. In Path of Exile 2, the core mechanic remains the same. You interact with the hands, the circle spawns and expands, monsters emerge, you kill them, and they drop breach splinters. However, there are notable differences. Breaches now grant catalysts as rewards, items previously tied to ultimatum in PoE 1. Catalysts improve the quality of rings and amulets, modifying specific stats by up to 20%. Also, breach rings in PoE 2 are no longer corrupted and feature special implicits, allowing them to be upgraded to 50% quality instead of the standard 20%. Additionally, the number of splinters required to create a breach stone has increased to 300. So while the core gameplay remains familiar, the changes bring fresh incentives and a reworked progression system for breach mechanics in PoE 2. Next, we have Ritual. In Path of Exile 1, you randomly encounter a ritual altar surrounded by monsters. Killing these monsters activates the altar, allowing you to interact with it and start the ritual encounter. During the encounter, all previously slain monsters revive alongside additional ones spawning near the altar. Killing these monsters grants tribute, a currency used to purchase items from the altar once the encounter ends. Ritual rewards include special base types, ritual splinters, 100 of which form a ritual vessel to store monsters for later use, and occasionally an invitation granting access to an endgame boss encounter. In Path of Exile 2, the core mechanic remains nearly identical. You encounter an altar, kill nearby monsters to activate it, interact with it to start the ritual, and fight revived and newly spawned enemies to earn tribute. Once the encounter ends, tribute can be spent on rewards at the altar. However, the major change lies in the rewards. Ritual in PoE 2 now grants omens, high-value crafting items previously tied to wildwood in PoE 1. These omens offer prophesied outcomes for crafting, functioning similarly to eldritch currencies in PoE 1, which also enabled advanced endgame crafting. While the mechanics feel familiar, the shift in rewards brings a refreshing twist, providing new tools for crafting enthusiasts in Path of Exile 2. Moving on, we have Delirium. In Path of Exile 1, you randomly encounter the Mirror of Delirium. Passing through it shrouds the area in a gray mist, transforming regular monsters into delirious ones, which gain increased damage reduction and deal more damage. Delirious monsters spawn from the mist, and the deeper you venture, the more dangerous enemies become. Killing these monsters rewards you with loot of a specific type, and they can also drop cluster jewels and simulacrum splinters. Cluster jewels extend your skill tree with new nodes and notables, while 300 simulacrum splinters combine to form a simulacrum, granting access to a challenging 15-wave endgame event. In Path of Exile 2, the core encounter remains largely unchanged. You pass through the mirror, the mist spreads, monsters become delirious, and you slay them to earn greater rewards. The key difference lies in the rewards. In PoE 2, you can find distilled emotions within the mist. These items can be combined in sets of 3 to instill amulets with specific notables from the skill tree based on the combination used. Additionally, they can enhance waystones, increasing difficulty and rewards for specific encounters. Their function is reminiscent of blight oils from PoE 1, which allowed players to anoint amulets with notable passives. This twist adds a layer of strategic crafting, letting you imbue amulets with powerful modifiers while providing additional customization options for challenging encounters. Lastly, we have Expedition. In Path of Exile 1, you randomly encounter one of the 4 Kalguran settlers at burial sites. These settlers, Gwenin, Tujen, Rog, and Danig, seek your help in unearthing treasures, but their approach is far from traditional. Instead of using shovels, they hand you explosives to plant around the burial sites. Once all the charges are placed, you detonate them, revealing buried treasures and awakening monsters. Killing these monsters yields artifacts, which can be traded to the settlers for various benefits. Gwenin lets you gamble for random items, Tujen exchanges artifacts for currency items, Rog sells items and offers crafting options, and Danig trades artifacts for those desired by the other settlers. As you progress, you'll discover logbooks, which grant access to larger excavation sites. These areas allow for intricate chains of explosions, offering greater rewards. Occasionally, these zones also contain access to endgame boss encounters. In Path of Exile 2, the mechanic remains almost completely unchanged. You still encounter burial sites, interact with the settler, plant explosives, detonate them, unearth treasures and monsters, and collect artifacts to trade with the Kalguran settlers for similar benefits. Logbooks also function the same way, providing expansive zones for large-scale excavations and loot opportunities. It's a faithful carryover of the original mechanic, delivering the same thrilling and explosive gameplay for expedition enthusiasts. In both Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2, there are ways to force specific encounters in areas. In Path of Exile 1, this is done through Scarabs, which can be used in map devices to guarantee and modify encounters. Scarabs allow players to target specific mechanics, enhancing loot or increasing the frequency of those encounters within maps. Meanwhile, in Path of Exile 2, a new system involving tablets takes over this function. These tablets can be used to force specific encounters into areas and can also be modified with currency items to tailor the encounters to the player's needs. This provides a similar level of control over which mechanics you want to experience while adding a fresh layer of customization to how those encounters manifest. As a closing bonus, let me tell you about one more encounter, Essence. While the basic mechanics remain the same in both Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2. In both, you find rare monsters trapped in crystalline prisons, and after you defeat them, they drop an essence of a specific type, but their functionality has some notable differences between the two games. In Path of Exile 1, lower-tier essences transform a normal item into a rare item while guaranteeing a specified modifier with specific values. Higher-tier essences function similarly, but can also be applied to existing rare items. When used on a rare item, they guarantee a specific modifier while re-rolling all other modifiers on the item. In Path of Exile 2, the system has been refined. Normal essences now upgrade a normal item to a magic item with one guaranteed modifier. Greater essences go a step further, allowing you to add a guaranteed modifier to a magic item while converting it into a rare item without re-rolling the item's existing modifiers or adding additional modifiers beyond the specified one. This makes them function more like modifier-specific regal orbs, offering much greater control over crafting outcomes. If you enjoy this kind of pointless but entertaining and slightly informative content, please consider subscribing, liking, and smacking that notification bell. Depending on the response this video gets, I may or may not create more parts covering even more of this pointless content as new information is revealed to us. As always, thank you for watching. I can't wait to join all of you on December 6th as we embark on our Path of Exile 2 journey. See you then, Exile.